Versatile Mage. Chapter 318. This is the Blood Sarira. The first time Mo Fan had met Zan Kong, his wind wings had only consisted of a pair, resembling an ordinary pair of wings. Currently, Zan Kong had two pairs of wind wings on his back. The wings were generating a strong gust between them, which was quite impossible to see without a closer look. Zan Kong was controlling the four wind wings mentally. A pair of them wrapped in front of him as a shield, forming a layer of protection around him. The gray-white force of Petrify approached its target. However, the wind element circulating around the wings was effective against the particles, even those invisible to the naked eye. It formed a layer of protection that could blow any energy away. Protected by the wind wings, Zan Kong's eyes were burning. Wind was only his supportive element. Fire was his main element. Facing a strong opponent like Lu Nian, Zan Kong had no intentions of concealing his strength. Fiery stars quickly aligned around his body. The paths between the stars lined up and drew a perfect intermediate star pattern. The star patterns continued to join together as Zan Kong floated right in the middle of them. He was like a dictator who had control over the lives of all living things, able to bring utter destruction with a single rise of his hand. The constellation took form. As the advanced magic was being cast, Zan Kong maintained his altitude while holding his hands above him. A fiery magic ring sprang up high in the sky. The fiery magic ring covered a huge area above the clouds. It dyed the sky the color of sunset, resulting in a spectacular view. Sky Flame Funeral. Zan Kong, who was right in the middle of the fire constellation, glanced down at Lu Nian. His hands were actually supporting the fiery magic ring that had set the entire sky ablaze. Following his roar, giant fireballs swept across the sky like a meteor shower and dove down. The sky above the city turned blazing red. The meteor shower was visually astonishing. It was definitely worthy to be called a funeral, since each of the fireballs was enough to stir up utter destruction, smashing a huge chunk of the city into ashes. Although the Sky Flame Funeral was targeting the evil commander Lu Nian, the packs of giant lizards on the ground ended up as victims, too. Countless numbers of them were burned into ashes as the flames poured down upon the place. When the destructive force reached a certain level, the servant-class demon beasts became extremely tiny. The spreading force from the Sky Flame Funeral was enough to annihilate the giant lizards from an entire street. Mo Fan was not in the mood to spectate the duel between Lu Nian and Zan Kong. He raised his head while chasing after the heavenly eagle on the way to the nest. Zan Kong was occupied with the battle against Lu Nian. There was no way he could save the students in time. Mo Fan was torn with anxiety as he saw Zhao Manting, Mu Nujiao, Bai Tingting, and Mu Ningzhu approaching the gates of hell. What now? What could he do to save them? The place ahead was an ocean of giant lizards. He had no idea if he could make his way through them. Besides, for God's sake, the razor-tail drake was awake. At the top of the nest, a giant pair of wings slowly extended, like a human stretching after waking up from a nap. Its giant eyes slowly opened as it exhaled a deep breath, splitting the clouds in front of it apart. It slowly turned its head around. It first looked down at its citizens, to check if they were sticking to the daily routine. However, it suddenly caught a glimpse of something moving ahead. The giant lizards were not sensitive to things that were stationary. However, they naturally had a grudge against those that flew in the sky. The giant beast stared at the heavenly eagle approaching it, its eyes fixed on the humans hanging in the net. It stuck out its tongue with an avid gaze, and a hint of anger directed at the imbeciles that had dared to trespass into its territory. On the ground, Mo Fan was getting closer to the giant lizard's territory. Mo Fan had no fear of the overwhelming number of giant lizards. He would not mind stacking the dead corpses into a mountain. Unfortunately, the razor-tail drake had awoken. The commander-level demon beast, which had been able to kill the pseudomorphing demon beast with a single bite, had set its eyes on Mu Ningzhu and the others. "You're going to kill yourself." As Mo Fan stopped for a brief moment to catch his breath, a woman's voice appeared from the debris beside him. Mo Fan glanced toward it and saw advisor Jiang Yi. The woman was indeed quite impressive, being able to escape from the tide of giant lizards in one piece. That being said, half of her troop was missing. Even Jiang Yi herself was covered in wounds. It was clear that they had completely lost their ability to fight. If you were planning to stop me, I'll kill you all right away. Mo Fan glared at the remnants of the troop. He had no time to waste on them. Either way, there was no way he would watch Mu Ningzhu die. Let's ignore the fact that you can't make your way past the swarm of giant lizards in front of you. Even if you somehow made it to the razor-tailed drake, it would smash you into minced meat with a single slap. You're just getting yourself killed. Jiang Yi uttered a piece of cold advice instead of trying to detain him. As if I'm not aware of it. If it weren't for you lunatics, why would it have ended up like this? Mo Fan cursed. He was using his blood tabby to chase the heavenly eagle across half of the city. It was currently on cooldown. How could he possibly weave through the giant lizards which had totally filled up the 2-kilometer-long street? Even if he somehow made it to the other side, how could he possibly face the razor-tailed drake? Zan Kong was occupied with the battle against Lu Nian. There was no way he could make it in time, while Lu Nian was purposely dragging the battle further just to let Mo Fan know the consequences of not following his demands. The commander is out of his mind. Jiang Yi's eyes were filled with despair. Jiang Yi could barely justify the commander's decision from before, and now, what he was doing had completely surpassed her final limit. Their commander Lu Nian had really changed. He had gone insane. He was no longer doing it just to complete the invention of the new element. He was trying to satisfy his lust to kill. As a matter of fact, she should have realized it as soon as she set out for the operation. I believe you understand too. There's no way they could survive the razor-tailed drake. Even if Zan Kong managed to make his way past Lu Nian, he won't be able to save them, either, Jiang Yi added. Mo Fan's actions were utterly meaningless. He could not even make his way through the street filled with giant lizards, and still, he was thinking of saving the 4 students. Shut the fuck up. Mo Fan snapped. Fire began to sprout from his body uncontrollably, followed by a few lightning arcs flickering in the air. It was a sign that a magician had totally lost control of his emotions. Jiang Yi could tell that this young magician was reluctant to give up until the final moment. He was still planning to rush into the territory of the giant lizards. Are they really that important to you? Jiang Yi asked. Mo Fan did not respond. He did not even consider the question. His only thought was to eliminate the giant lizards so he could reach the nest. He wanted to knock the razor-tailed drake flying with his fist. No one was allowed to touch the people inside the net. Mo Fan, if you really want to save them. Jiang Yi's eyes flickered with strong emotion as if she had made a decision that she could not even believe herself. She opened her palm and continued. Here is the blood Sarira. Chapter end. Please guys like, comment, share, and subscribe.